By the end of the year 2001, the dot-com bubble had burst, and Amazon looked like the next domino to fall. The company was burning through nearly $3 billion in cash, and its stock collapsed, plummeting 93% from $107 down to $7 a share. Financial analysts were actively modeling the company's bankruptcy. The financial contrast was impossible to ignore. While Amazon was hemorrhaging $1.4 billion a year as an unprofitable online bookstore, retail giants like Walmart were effortlessly pulling in over $5 billion in profit. But while Wall Street focused on the bleeding balance sheet, a much more dangerous crisis was happening behind closed doors. Amazon's internal engineering systems were buckling under their own weight. Before Amazon could even think about surviving the external financial winter, it had to untangle a catastrophic flaw in its operational code that was quietly tearing the company apart from the inside. At the time, Amazon was built on what engineers call a tightly coupled system. Imagine a single 5-column spreadsheet maintained by the books team tracking inventory and price. To function, 40 internal teams ran software reading data directly from that exact same file. The books team sat in their corner completely isolated. They only maintained those 5 columns. They had no visibility into how marketing or the checkout system actually utilized their data. The breaking point comes from a simple technical decision. To fix a rounding error, the books team decides to stop storing prices in decimals. They format everything in cents instead of dollars. Suddenly, a $10 book is logged as simply 1,000 with no label attached. Because the system is tightly coupled, the marketing and checkout programs blindly pull that new number. Customers clicking Buy Now are suddenly hit with a $1,000 charge for a $10 paperback. This scenario was playing out hundreds of times across Amazon. Teams were paralyzed. If the books engineers didn't update their files, their own operations broke. But if they did, they broke the checkout system. A company cannot scale its external operations if its internal foundation is a fragile house of cards. Amazon's code was too entangled. In 2002, Jeff Bezos intervened with a directive that is now legendary in Silicon Valley, the API mandate. The mandate outlawed direct data reading. Teams could no longer touch each other's spreadsheets. Instead, every department had to build a service window, an application programming interface, or API. You submit a request to the window, and you wait for the answer. Under this new rule, the checkout team doesn't read a raw number. They ask the books window for the price in US dollars, and the window hands back a clean $10. If the international team requests Indian rupees, the books team handles the conversion behind their window and returns the correct currency. But Bezos added one final, crucial condition to the memo. All of these service windows had to be designed so well that one day complete strangers outside of Amazon could walk up and use them. By forcing standardized communication, Amazon severed its tangled web. It reorganized from a rigid monolith into a modular, highly adaptable engine ready to interact with the outside world. This mandate was applied to everyone, including Amazon's infrastructure engineers. The teams managing storage, databases, and computing power were forced to turn physical hardware into on-demand, orderable internal services. In 2003, 2 engineers, Chris Pinkham and Benjamin Black, wrote a memo outlining an incredible realization. If Amazon had already turned computing into an orderable service for its own employees, they could sell that exact same service to anyone on the internet. To understand the value of this, look at the barrier to entry for a tech founder in 2005. Launching a basic web app required spending tens of thousands of dollars up front to buy physical server racks, lease air-conditioned rooms, and hire engineers to keep them running. This chart compares the financial burden of launching a startup. The high flat line represents the massive upfront capital required for physical servers, but the lower curve shows Amazon's solution. With a few clicks and a credit card, a founder could now rent virtual computers for pennies an hour. It also solved the headache of unpredictable traffic. If an app went viral on a Saturday, the founder could instantly spin up 1,000 virtual machines to handle the load, then scale right back down to 100 machines by Monday morning, paying only for the exact computing time they consumed. By solving its own internal bottleneck, Amazon accidentally eliminated the single largest financial barrier for the global startup ecosystem. Competitors like Microsoft, Oracle, and IBM laughed at the venture. To them, renting server space was a low-margin commodity, and Amazon was just a struggling bookstore selling cheap computing power to broke indie developers. For 9 years, Amazon kept its cloud numbers a closely guarded secret. Behind the scenes, massive tech platforms were abandoning their own server rooms. When Netflix suffered a catastrophic database failure in 2008, CEO Reed Hastings began moving their entire streaming library over to Amazon's infrastructure. This bar chart shows what happened when Amazon finally revealed its hand in April 2015. They broke out Amazon Web Services as a separate line item, disclosing a massive $1.57 billion in revenue for a single quarter. Wall Street realized the bookstore was running the most profitable cloud business on Earth, sending the stock up 14% in a single day. Today, AWS alone generates tens of billions of dollars in operating profit, dwarfing the entire net income of traditional retail giants like Walmart. By standardizing its own internal chaos, Amazon built a platform that allowed the rest of the world to build and scale with massive upfront capital. They proved that the system capable of enabling the most experiments ultimately wins the future.